All right, welcome, folks. Thank you for being here. This is our seventh meeting of the Lynn Tree Committee. If you're watching after the fact or if you're here tonight, thank you so much for the time. I do record the meeting, so I just let everybody know, and we will get started with a few slides. I'll do screen two over here. And we'll do a little slideshow from the beginning. Okay, so it's March, it's spring. I'm excited. Hopefully everyone else is excited. Let me make sure I'm still admitting everybody. And can you see the slides okay? Yeah? Okay, great. Awesome. So I like to start with what we're going to do. So I have a little background, some community announcements, urban forestry program updates, and some public discussion, and then we'll talk about when the next meeting will be. So let's get right into it. The only community announcement that I personally have is that I got to spend this morning at the Ingalls School, the food projects farm that is about an acre food producing farm right next to the Ingalls School. It was fantastic. I really want to shout out and say thank you to Hazel Kiefer at the Food Project. She's just absolutely fantastic. She gave me a farm tour, told me about kind of what she's thinking about. So if you're not connected with the Food Project, I highly recommend you checking them out. Does anyone else who's here want to give any community announcements that they might have? Okay, I'm hearing none. I wanted to give people an update. This is kind of going to come up later though too, that we are planning an Arbor Day celebration, so I will definitely be emailing that out to folks what those opportunities might be. We went on a really productive site walk at the 100 Bennett Street. It used to be an administration building and it now hosts a pre-K. So we talked with Lynn Public Schools, the DPW, and the DCR Greening the Gateway Cities program and some of our staff from community development, and we are trying to put together an Arbor Day celebration. Arbor Day, for those of you who might not know, is the last Friday in April in Massachusetts. That's also Good Friday, and it's school vacation week for us. So we are actually planning to have an Arbor Day celebration, our formal one with the mayor, with the proclamation, with the kids. We're planning to do that on Tuesday, April 29th. So I will send those reminders out pretty frequently to try to get as many people at that celebration as we can possibly have. All right, and if you have a community announcement and you thought of it while I was talking, feel free to unmute and share that, but I'll just keep going if not. Okay, sounds like we're good. So the tree committee, we are a group, an advisory group for the urban forest plan in Lynn, and it's open to the public, so anyone can come to this meeting. We meet on Zoom so that we can have a record and recording and that people can be involved even if they can't make it to this meeting time. We are in our seventh meeting. We have over 80 hours of volunteered time, so thank you all so much. We have over 100 people on our email list who signed up to hear about what we're doing, what we're talking about, so we're really proud of that. We do have our eighth meeting is coming up right before Arbor Day, so there will be another chance to meet before then if there's any last minute advice that people want to give or feedback people have. And then on this slide, something that's new is that my position in the City of Lynn is secured through the end of May at this point. We're going to talk about some funding changes and some new information that we even received updates today, and we'll share that with you, and then we will get to our public discussion after that. Here's what our mission is as a group. We are looking to do some urban forestry, so protection, preservation, and growth of the City of Lynn's urban forest. That's all the woody vegetation in the city. And we're really looking for the public to give us advice on how we approach this scope of work. We want to engage community members and have people's voices be heard in the process of managing our urban forest. So for program updates, thanks Steve for joining. I know you said you were coming in a couple of minutes late. You're getting the good part, so here you are. We have a lot of updates these are kind of something that you might have heard last meeting. But for those of you who didn't see the last meeting or haven't heard, we had our contract, we received a notice of contract termination from the Arbor Day Foundation through the U.S. Forest Service for our large grant, which I'll refer to as the Arbor Day Foundation Inflation Reduction Act grant. We were funded $550,000 after constituents kind of encouraged the planning department to apply for that funding. We were awarded that in 2023. I came on board in June 2024. And in the 9 months that I have been here, we have made about almost $90,000 worth of progress on this scope of work, which was my position, 150 trees, an urban forest plan, and a youth program. There was more to it than that, but we've been keeping working hard on that. It was terminated, the contract was terminated in late February, and that termination represents about a $460,000, $470,000 loss at this point. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later, but I always show this slide to show you all what active funded projects we have going on. We have started our implementation grant. So that's our $124,000 grant for preparing tree pits for the DCR Greening the Gateway Cities program to plant new trees in this spring, this coming fall. We're looking to do 80 tree pits, and they're going to plant 110 trees with that added space. So we're about $5,000 worth through that work, mostly stump grinding. It has resulted in a lot of communication with constituents. So I've been trying to send out a notice. Sometimes it's not advance notice, it's intended to be advance notice as we build the program of kind of what's going on out on the right of way and when people can expect. Kind of dig safe markings to show up, stump grinding to occur, pit expansion to be occurring, and just if people have questions for the crew that I am more suited to answer, like making sure those get to me. So we're setting up a process here, and we will be in that process through the end of June this year. We need to spend that grant down. I think a lot of folks on this call are familiar that we had our tree health survey completed, and we found quite a few trees of concern throughout the community, and we will be looking to kind of update our tree removal contract, our tree services contract for those trees that are struggling in poor health or that are in a dead condition. This Arbor Day, we're going to be celebrating our 35th year as a Tree City USA. We were approved by our state coordinator to get our 35th year, and we also applied for our first year of growth award, which really shows that we were building and committed to our urban forest. So we're really proud of that. We're looking forward to the celebration. So this is the scope of work of the big grant, the Arbor Day Foundation Inflation Reduction Act grant. This is the one where we had made it about $90,000 through, but this was the one that we received contract termination notices for. I just like to show this to give people a sense of the scope of the work. I was gonna plant those 150 trees in these yellow areas here in the city. These are our most built up areas. These are our urban heat island areas. And these are our areas where we pretty consistently see a need for increased tree protection, tree planting, other things like that. And the green dots on here are our newly planted trees. We did 32 bare root trees with different groups last fall. And so this interactive dashboard will let you log in. You just have to hit cancel twice when it asks you to log in. And then you can kind of zoom in on the trees, see a picture of them, and see what kind of tree they were. We have been having a lot of fun doing this. I like to put this slide in just to remind folks that although I'm usually the one you're hearing talking, it's not just me who's doing this work. It's really all of you, and it's Roca Inc., and it's your city councilors and your mayor and Pam. I saw Pam on the call earlier, and she was having trouble joining, I think, but that's Pam up in the corner and our DPW staff. Really, it takes all hands to do this work. So here's our updates from today. Sorry about all the text on this slide. It's quite a bit of text on the slide. And we received a notice from the Arbor Day Foundation recommendation that they will be disputing the termination of the agreement. Now, this means that they're sending a letter to the deputy of the chief state, private, and tribal forestry at the U.S. Forest Service. Their contact information is listed on the right, and we're not encouraging or discouraging folks to do this, but we wanted to make you aware of this, that this is happening, and we can't guarantee that any type of dispute to the termination would result in reinstatement of our contracts. These were contracts that were terminated, so it's not quite as simple as like a freeze and then just keep going. It really is contract termination, so we can't promise that this dispute will have any material results for us. But I did include on the slide how to find your representatives. So, whatever your thoughts are, whether you're supportive of urban forestry, whether you don't really want to see that here, it's always a good option to just know about how to find your representatives and share with them whatever it is that you think. So that's all in here. And I do post these slides with the links active after, and I send them out. I will send them out to the Lynn Tree Committee. The Arbor Day Foundation is going to submit their letter and they say that if you choose to submit a letter similarly to how they're doing, that it would be good to do that before March 25th. So there you go. We have this little thing that we've been trying to do where you could submit a tree story on Linden Common, our urban forestry website, if you felt so called to do so. I'm gearing these towards Lynn. It would be great to hear about some trees that are important to people in Lynn. When I was out at the Ingalls Farm today with Hazel, we saw a fantastic willow tree behind the school. Farm, and we talked about that willow tree quite a bit and how it interacts with what they're doing, but also how much they love the tree. And I also got to see a tulip tree off in the distance that looked like either a front yard tree or a street tree. I didn't actually get to go over onto the street, and it was quite a beautiful large tree, and I could kind of see that hope of seeing the tulip trees bloom again this year. So if you have a tree story that you'd want to share, it would be really great if you went on our website and just share anything. It doesn't have to be a hugely special tree, just something that you feel about the tree. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. All these blue dots are locations that we have on our list. Our list is very long for stump grinding and tree pit improvement. We have a lot of 2.5 by 2.5 foot tree pits inland and a lot of very narrow sidewalks and kind of wide streets. So we have a lot of work to do in this area of making our right of way more suitable for trees. While we're doing this, we can make it more suitable for people walking as well. So last meeting, the tree committee talked really about a lot of sidewalk stuff, which was awesome. And we kind of wrote that up and have been thinking about how we approach tree and sidewalk conflicts. So this work is going to help some of that. And here's some of the stuff. I kind of already said some of the stuff we were doing with this. So if we have questions in the public discussion, I'm happy to go back to this, answer those, pull up the map, pull up the really ugly list, whatever we want to do. And for planting season, initially when we had not received our contract termination notice, I was planning to fulfill about 50 new tree requests this spring. Unfortunately, although we have put a $37,500 scope of work in front of some private foundations just to see if we could get that funding for tree planting at the last minute, I have not heard back from those pitches. So right now we don't really have a pot of funding to fund tree planting for this spring. I am about to hit send on an application to the New England chapter of the ISA. They have a $1,000 Arbor Day grant that would fund one very nice tree for out front of the school, some tree seedlings that we could give away to kids and attendees at the Arbor Day celebration. We could do a few hundred seedlings. They're really small, but it's better than nothing with that money. And hopefully we would get that. So I got a letter of support from the mayor and we will submit that today. So yeah, so we don't have a lot of money, but we have a lot of new tree requests. So people want trees. They are asking for them, and they're also asking why, if they've requested trees 4 or 5 times, why they don't have a tree yet. The reason is that We can't have an urban forestry tree planting program if we don't have the funding to purchase trees and the funding for staff to properly plant and maintain those trees. So that's where we're at. Here's a slide I like to show just to show how much goes into the planning process. This is why we like to kind of have everything set up in February, March, for planting that occurs through April, May. So that's why we are needing so many resources to pull off these plantings. This pile, I never talk about this pile here. This pile it was healed in bare root trees, which we covered in mulch because at the kind of at the end of the fall last year, we were in a drought. It was really hot, and we were kind of temporarily storing these 32 bare root trees, which we did get all of them planted, storing them basically on a parking lot. So it was very hot. So we needed to have the mulch there, and we needed to water that mulch pile just to preserve these baby trees before we were able to plant them. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not quite as simple as just going down to the store, picking up a tree, and planting it wherever. I know you guys know that though. So here were some of the pitches. I know this is a kind of an ugly slide, but this was kind of my ditch effort to fund a tree planting season. Thank you, Calvin. I appreciate your advocacy there. We tried to put together like, hey, if we could find money, if some hero could arise somewhere, what would we want to do for a project? And we kind of put together a spring 2025 planting budget. That's not on this slide. There's another one for that. It looks very similar to the FY26, which I've mapped out. So even if we do not find a way to fund through private funders or through other things, even if we don't find a way to replace the exact funding that we had, we do have this effort that's been kind of conducted to set up like, well, what would we need to pull off a planting season if we didn't have that funding? So that it's good to have a plan, a backup plan, and you never know who may come through the works and want to fund something like this. So any advice, anything you guys hear about, we're open to considering and possibly changing course or, just working together to find a solution that might get some of this work done. Very excited about this. We did submit an application for about $130,000 to create a community wildfire protection plan for Lynn. We had some very good coordination with our state fire warden, Dave Salino. Thank you so much. If he listens to this, I'm not sure that he will have time to do so with all of the fires he has to put out, literally. But our state fire warden helped us with his staff on just rounding out our application. This is an application that would allow us to plan, but then it would open up further applications for the Lynn Fire Department to apply for implementation projects to further protect us. I did do some mapping around the Linwoods Reservation and discovered really that we have about 16,000 acres of wildland urban interface and intermix around the woods. So it would be great for us to do a Firewise program and to just really write down and kind of figure out what we need to prepare in advance of future fires, which we have come to know pretty well in the city of Lynn. So we'll let you know if we get that grant. Here's something I really love to talk about. I didn't include pictures from my most recent early career slash youth engagement event, but we really are focused on providing opportunities for young people. So this is another piece of the program besides just the planting that we were really excited about and that we kind of want to try to seek additional funding for or other programs to try to make this work happen. We had Ava here. She did a project on trees and mental health. These are some of the position drafts that we were going to apply for or going to release for people to apply for so that Lynn Public High School students could work with us, receiving direct mentorship, not just on urban forestry, but also on employability. So redoing their resumes. letting them earn a paycheck while they learn public speaking and kind of how to show up at City Hall and help us with this work. Um, so we can't really fill these positions right now given the changes that we have had, but we do have the preparation. So we have a lot of documentation now, a lot of ideas, a lot of kind of shovel ready, if you will, projects where if we could find the funding or somehow plan for these in another way, we would be able to immediately act upon those. This is just Ava's project. I really can't speak highly enough of this. Ava did a project on trees and mental health, and she suggested that in our urban forest plan, we prioritize tree planting based on where people are experiencing depression in the city of Lynn and other mental health issues. So I highly recommend speaking with Ava. She actually is still around. She's an Essex Tech High School student, and she is currently rounding out her co-op for Essex Tech. In the DPW, she mainly works in the greenhouse at Pine Grove Cemetery. So we've got some public discussion time. I really have been trying to talk less and hear more from you guys. I think I'm doing better and better with that every time. So I would love to open it up and just try to answer some questions. Um, this is what we discussed last time. So we had a lot of discussion about sidewalks. That's been documented, and we're going to kind of think about that with the DPW and with our other partners. We had some talk about the federal funding, and there was a big question about what can we do about this termination notice. So I think earlier in this presentation, I am not encouraging anyone or discouraging anyone from doing any of that stuff, but we heard what our pass-through partner is going to try to do. So I think that kind of is an advancement there. And then, oh, I didn't even mention where I was that I didn't put a picture of, but I was able to go to the Elliott Family Resource Center and and Everett Public High School students in the Wave Club, which is a feminist club. It is Women's History Month in March, so it was really great to be invited to be on a panel. There were some other amazing women there, including someone from the Office of the Attorney General, someone from Maura Healey's office, someone who has her own balloon company. There was supposed to be a firefighter, an Everett firefighter there, but she was fighting a fire literally, so she sent her answers in writing. And there were some other really incredible women who were on this panel. I was also there representing urban forestry in the city of Lynn. And we had about 20 to 30 high school students in the city of Everett who were there, who got to hear a little bit about what we're doing. Normally in the public discussion, I take notes, so I put kind of you guys' questions in the discussion question or topic in the white, and then I put kind of whatever answer we arrive at in the green. And then I publish this so that people who couldn't be here can access what we decided or what we talked about. And then I do have a little more updates about our I call them our Abies babies because Abies is the fir genus of trees. We actually have reached the epicodal stage. So, if we want to get really nerdy about it, gymnosperms are multicotyledonous, so they can have a lot of leaves on their first whorl. In this picture on the right, which I took 2 days ago, you can see that we have our cotyledons, which there's a bunch on the firs. But this right here is our epicodal. We have some seedling growth here. So we have four balsam firs that maybe, if they really survive into the future, they can mark kind of our time here so far and in the future. I'm very excited for that. And then I put when our next meeting is, and then I put my contact info. So that's what's in the slides. Let's have our public discussion, and I'll just be taking notes kind of in the PowerPoint. And it might be best to kind of raise hands or just unmute and just remember to be courteous of other folks don't everybody jump at once.
Um, this is Susan. For some reason, I've messed up my video, and so I can't put up me. There's some other thing I've done. But anyway, my question is, in terms of our communications with the folks in relationship to the Arbor Day Foundation, et cetera, the suggested deadline, I think, is the 25th. And so I don't know whether, is it advisable to write a letter and hope it gets there in time and at the same time send an email using the email address? And are there other things that we can be doing in a timely fashion? I know there are a lot of other things to talk about, but for me, the intensity is how do we keep this program going?
Great question, Susan. So, one more kind of update that I don't think I provided during this, because we've just been talking about it kind of nonstop, is I just want to let folks know that the local government has been we had a vote during the Ways and Means Committee meeting last week, I believe it was. Yes, last week on the 11th, that they voted to appropriate some funds to keep my position secure until May. So, so to continue the work, I just want to assure everybody that I'm not stopping what we're doing. We're going to go full steam ahead with answering constituent requests, doing our implementation grant, and processing the information that we have, and kind of working to find solutions to make a sustainable urban forestry program here in Lynn. To answer your question a little bit more, I think Susan is expressing an intention to follow up with potentially the U.S. Forest Service contacts that our partners at the Arbor Day Foundation are going to be contacting. I cannot recommend or discourage you from contacting your representatives in any type of fashion. So I can let other folks comment on what they think they would like to do or what they would recommend, even if you want to recommend something to Susan. I'll let other folks take care of that, but I was just sharing the information that the Arbor Day Foundation will be disputing the termination in hopes of reinstating some of this, but that we did. I see Heather in the chat. I'm just going to say it out loud for anyone who might be watching the recording. Heather is saying, let's all send emails. And I provided some links so that if you don't know who you can contact with your opinions of urban forestry, whether you want us to continue or you want to see something different. Um, I provided some links on this slide. I can put the slide up again. I do send the slides out after the meeting, so you'll be able to click those links, and I will send the slides kind of right after this meeting. I like to record the meetings and post them. I usually wait to post to the next day, but today I'm going to post this one right away. And I see two people have liked Heather's comment to all send emails.
I have another comment if I can.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And that is clearly the city is doing as much as it can to keep this going. And I think one of the things that we could do is to email or call or whatever the mayor's office, I can't think of his name, but the head of the planning department, to thank them for what they've already done, to say, keep going. We really value this program. And to I guess what I'm saying is it's important for people to hear us in a positive way, in a sense of, yes, we want it, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Susan. I see a lot of clapping and other things. We appreciate your comments. Any other things you wanted to say, Susan, or should I go to David?
I'll come back again.
Okay, please do. Please do. All right, David, go ahead.
Well, I just had a comment. If we're sending emails, it's possible the person we send the email to has been laid off or furloughed or something. If we get that kind of response, can we coordinate through you, for instance, maybe to let people know that they need to send it to someone else? Hopefully there'll be a reference or something. It's just the way things are going so quickly and so crazy that I wonder whether the emails are even going to be open.
So I don't have a full answer without having all the knowledge of the inner workings of the entire government, but I can tell you, David, that the only layoffs that I'm personally aware of in this field have been a couple of really awesome colleagues. One from Southbridge, urban forester that they had hired through a similar program, and our urban and community forestry program coordinators, kind of earlier career staff member, Ari, unfortunately was terminated along with this. For your representatives in your local government and your state government and your federal government, those positions have not been, folks have not been laid off from those positions. The function of them is to listen to constituents and receive their public comments and sometimes reply to them. They don't, my understanding is that they don't always, I don't really know what their frequency or rate of response is always. But you should not encounter like an empty representative's office at this time.
was really thinking was if I write to that forestry person and they say, "Oh, I've been furloughed, refer my things to such and such," would it make sense for me to write to you? So you then could write to the list and say, "Oh, that reference has been sent to such and such an email," or is that something that you can't do in this particular situation?
Yeah, let me explain a little bit about why I'm not encouraging everybody to do one thing or another. So I'm a public employee, and so by state law and conflict of interest law, I am not allowed to benefit from my position personally, or I'm not allowed to advocate for this program because I'm here for you. So really, the constituents can advocate to their local representatives, their state representatives, and their federal representatives, and I can state the facts that we're receiving. So that's why I kind of told people and showed that slide about letting them know that the Arbor Day Foundation is going to dispute the termination of this grant. But I cannot go and like advocate and go say like, hey, the City of Lynn should really do this and this because my salary is paid through this position, and it would be a conflict of interest for me to kind of influence constituents in a way that they didn't come up with on their own. So it's really best for me to kind of stay out of it in some ways. And I think everyone in this group knows that this work is near and dear to my heart. But I also really want to comply with the law and serve the public as best I can. So I try to follow those rules.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Susan.
Uh,
Thank you, David.
some of the advice that I've gotten in terms of particularly contacting our senator, your representative, is that um, when you call and if you get you're getting a response line, that what's happening is the person who's picking that up is tallying, pro and con around whatever the issues are that are being done. So um, it's worth calling if you don't get somebody, if you get the recorded. I know when I connected with our senators, both of those was to leave a message. But when I'm Seth Moulton's district, and in that case, there was a person in the office. So it is worth calling, even if you don't actually speak to a person, if there's a way you can leave a message. And to keep it brief and to try to keep it focused so we're not complaining about 16 things. That it's, in this case, it would be around this particular project and maybe some other climate issue, but I'll try to keep my mouth shut, but I just feel so strongly about this that I want to, and I'd love to hear from other folks on what other suggestions people have too.
Thank you, Susan. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Hi, I've been doing a lot of calling lately, and the best thing is yes, call, write, send the emails, send your letters, do everything. Just, bombard them and let them know what you want. Because thankfully in Massachusetts, I do think our representatives do want to represent us. So that's what I would suggest with just do everything. Do everything. And don't give up. Resist. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Marilyn. Yeah, I really appreciate your comments. Anyone else?
Can I, Erica? Do you mind?
I see Calvin unmuted. Do you meaning to be unmuted, Calvin, or do you want to?
Oh, it was a Freudian unmute.
All
I
right. Okay. Go
can't
ahead,
figure
Chris.
on this Mac top here. But while I'm at it,
Okay.
our delegation is it would be like preaching to the choir. Keep it short and sweet with them, but you got to reach out to the people who might in other states and the bureaucrats, the ones in DC that report right to the executive level. That's all I'm saying. You don't waste time preaching to the choir. We got enough advocates. I'm going to be in DC at the end of the month. If you have anything you need hand delivered, by the way, to anything, so let me know. I got a place to stay if you want to come down and resist.
Thank you,
Anyway, that's
Calvin.
it.
We appreciate your comments.
Let me find this. Oh, there it is.
Chris, did you want to go next?
Sure. So my question to you is, excuse me, I know you don't have funding, so for you to complete what you would think would be a successful spring or something that would be a success for you, how many trees would you need?
So I tend to stick a little bit away from a number of trees because I'm more concerned with the depth of the interaction and really serving people high quality rather than the number. So that's why I've submitted, or I am going to submit in like about an hour, the New England Chapter ISA $1,000 Arbor Day grant that will get me one very beautiful, probably balled and burlapped, we will see, maybe container. That will get me one pink flowering saucer magnolia for the 100th Street Bennett School for the front. And that will help me with working with Lynn Public Schools, working with Roca, working with the DPW to kind of make this giant parking lot a little bit better for the pre-K. And just that event is going to make my spring. Every Arbor Day for the past, I think it's 4 years now, I have by the very last second, put together an Arbor Day that has felt really good. And it has always come together at the end of that. So just letting people know that I have had a couple conversations with some arborist companies that would love to donate services to us for Arbor Day. So getting that coordinated. So it's not really a number of trees. I had put together a pitch to do 50 trees, which was my initial intention for this spring when we had not received our contract termination. I had had a plan to do 50 trees. That was going to be 15 trees for Central Square during the downtown beautification effort. So some of you may be familiar with that. Um, you may have been familiar with the removal of those trees in Central Square several years ago, which actually partially inspired the application for this funding initially. Um, so 15 trees downtown for Central Square, 5 trees for Lynn Public Schools, which the other 4 trees of that are actually going to be partnered with the DCR Greening the Gateway Cities program. They are going to purchase some trees and be with us for Arbor Day. But I really wanted at least one tree to be City of Lynn. A City of Lynn purchased and planted tree because it would be commemorative of our efforts to build a program here. So that's why we're applying for that $1,000 for that one tree and a bunch of seedlings to give away. I have 200 Professor Elwood E. Pricklethorne coloring books right here. So thank you to the state. Julie Coop gave us these. They're really fantastic. We're going to give these out on Arbor Day. These are through the DCR as well. So we're going to have a really excellent Arbor Day. I'm going to feel really good about that day. I had just really wanted to do some of our new tree requests. I've been meeting people who are just absolutely incredible. I was just over on Nancy Road. I was also over on Fays Avenue the other day, just meeting people in the neighborhood. And then when I'm looking at a tree, someone actually kind of other people come out and they're kind of like, "What are you doing?" Looking at the trees, and then we get more tree requests. And I think a lot of people have been asking for trees for multiple years, so it can be really challenging. When people keep asking and they're not seeing the trees. So I had wanted to do 50 trees. The scope of work that I put together for this spring that I was hoping to get funded in a last-ditch effort, that was going to be 50 trees all said and done. And also another thing, Chris, I know you already know this about me, but I don't want to plant a tree that we just plant and then walk away from. We need to be watering these trees for 2 to 5 years after they are planted, especially given our tough city streets that we kind of have, the tough conditions that we're going to be planting these trees into. So the maintenance and the youth program, it's less a number of trees and it's more kind of a 50 grand would be so, so awesome. If I can't get 50 grand, I'll apply for 1,000 and that will be awesome as well.
Have you
Okay.
reached out to Procopio?
What was that?
Have you reached out to Procopio, Deep
I
Pockets
have not.
developer? Well, they're the ones who are responsible for those trees coming down. They got the tail between their legs. I've got a good story that I might submit as my favorite tree stories because we drove by and we saw the protection, I mean, the fence going up where they're going to tear down and build the new 10-story right there by the railroad track. So I called EDIC. I want this on the record. I said, hey, what's going to happen to those trees? Because I know a staging area is going to be, required for this big project. No return call from Billy Bachnack. 2 days later, those trees were gone. They got them down as quick because we were about to raise a stink. And I would go on record reminding people of that. Don't trust EDIC.
Thank
There,
you for your
I'll
comments.
mute now.
Thank you for your comments, Calvin. Definitely before my time in the city of Lynn, and it is good to remember our trees and continue talking about them. So I appreciate your comments. Chris, did I answer your question? Was there some more that you wanted to say? Um, Let us know.
Well, I was kind of looking. So you know me, and you know where I'm going with this. So I cannot obviously share my Malden funding with the city of Lynn. Um, but what I'd like to do is personally, from my own business, I'd like to give you 5 trees. You can
Wow,
plant.
thank you, Chris.
You
I
can plant
I
that
I
you
do
want.
believe we could figure out something for that.
Yep. So whatever trees you want, me and you talk on a daily basis. You tell me what you want, and I will pay for them and get them delivered.
I will discuss it with my department and we'll see what we can do. I think for Arbor Day we have for Liberty Tree Day last year and for Arbor Day this year we have accepted donated time and services before, so we will just make sure it's all um, done through the right channels. But that's a
Yeah,
really awesome offer, Chris. Thank you.
the powers that be know that it's not a donation from the Malden Tree Warden or the city of Malden. It's a private donation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For those of you on the call who might not know Chris, Chris is tree warden in Malden, but beyond that, he's an arborist. He takes care of trees on the daily. So thank you for being here, Chris. Thank you for speaking.
How much does a tree cost?
Good question, Calvin. It can vary very widely. So it depends where the tree was grown, how the tree was grown, whether you're procuring it through a larger contract, so you get some
The scale
bulk.
that you're talking about. That's
The
what I'm
scale that I'm
talking
talking about, I'm looking at $350 to $500 for a tree that is maintained, all bells
about.
and whistles. That's
For each
kind of the
tree.
price that I'm looking at right now.
Oh, gosh, they were going $1.60 when I was planting them 10 years ago. Ooh. I was about to pledge one, but I'm on SS, so I don't know when I'm getting my last check on that. So, and
Yeah,
let me mute up now.
and we currently don't have a system for, I get a lot of requests from people where they're asking if they can purchase and plant their own tree in the right of way. That's not something that I recommend because it is, we're seeing some things in Lynn. I've seen a few, best of intentions, very well-intentioned people. I really appreciate it. But planting things like silver maples underneath power lines, which is going to cause a problem for our urban forest management in the future. The trees mature at a very large size just because they're not a large size now. And then also our team can't understand exactly what we've got for an urban forest if it's like, a million different people doing it all at once. There are options, there are ways that maybe this group could discuss for setting up different systems. But we currently don't have a system to accept donations in the city for this specific work. And we currently don't have like a tree keepers program. There are other cities across the United States that do have tree stewards programs. They may have an MOU or an MOA, which is a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement with the municipality to kind of work more directly. It is. I don't mean to try to set, one group over another or anything like that, but it is worthwhile to have an arborist reviewing your site plans and reviewing kind of, is that the right tree for the right place? Who owns the land? Really, is this following all federal, state, and local laws? It is good to try to follow that. Just for the record, we don't really have those systems. Also, just one thing to remind folks is we do not have a public tree protection ordinance or a private tree protection ordinance. So our trees are protected by Chapter 87, which is the shade tree law, public shade tree law in Massachusetts. And we do have a tree warden. He's on vacation this week, so I've been kind of designated by the DPW to do a couple things. Just in that just to fill that gap. But we do have our tree warden, Dan Small. You can email him at linwoodsranger@aol.com or dsmall@linma.gov. And he's great. He's our Linwoods Park Ranger. A lot of you probably know him and work with him quite frequently. He is our tree warden. So um, that would be the contact there if you wanted to request a tree removal or if you had questions about Chapter 87 or if you wanted to plant a tree of your own in the right of way, you may be able to email me and him and see if he approves that. But we don't have a codified kind of a procedure to follow there. So it gets to be a lot to manage when a lot of people have different ways that they want to contribute and we don't have a lot of capacity to address all of those different ways. But it's really awesome to have the conversation and to hear people's ideas. And we will definitely look at every single idea of how to set up things for the future.
How about just encouraging people if they have an idea for a memorial tree or specific one to run it through the planning department? For all the reasons you just mentioned, people understand, oh yeah, okay, maybe it's not specifically good for an urban street tree or whatever, but it's time to start circling the wagons around that because we're not going to get any federal money for the next 3.5 years.
Thanks, Calvin.
I'm an
Yeah, it's
activist,
great to
you
run
know.
ideas past us. It's great to send us when you
Yeah.
send us your ideas for a memorial tree planting or when you ask kind of, hey, could we get a tree here? Our new tree request form is not just for the owners of that particular parcel. For example, even Calvin, you've told me about Mariana's Way, and you've told me about, I think we've talked about Joyce Street and Union Street before. We've talked about a lot of different streets in the city. The planning department is really appreciative when we hear from you, like what streets are looking kind of sparse or what streets look like they need attention. That can help us kind of decide where to
Well, the Joyce Street was
prioritize.
one of those 50-50 projects. We planted like 65 trees over a couple of plantings, but it was 50-50. The DPW did the planting, we get the funding for the trees, and we were down and dirty with the burlap, burying them. I wore my coveralls that day.
It's always
It's
good to wear the
dirty, but really
coveralls.
fun when you come up and you say, I got really dirty, down and dirty with the roots with that tree. And then you go by it for years and it's still thriving. So plant trees. I'm just really poetic about it.
That's wonderful, Calvin. I get the same feeling when I drive by trees that I've planted. I go by the High Rock Park the southern part of that on my way into work every day, and we planted 5 trees down there to replace some that had been planted too deeply. There was some planting issues at the time of planting for some of those trees in particular, and we were able to do some root collar excavation on some tulip trees. So I had a great time that day when we were taking a look at those. And I think in the PowerPoint slide, you might have seen some pictures of the mayor out there with some of our Roca Inc. participants, early career program participants. They helped us plant some bur oak. We did some white oak in there. We did some tulip trees. That was the original plan, was all tulip trees, but we're trying to avoid monocultural planting. So just planting as much and as many different kinds of trees as we can. We have a lot of gaps to fill in our tree canopy in Lynn, which is sort of reminding me that I didn't let this group know and we didn't go all through my GIS and we don't really need to do that. But I do have some pretty significant mapping progress on our urban heat islands and just where we would want to prioritize planting from kind of a public health perspective. The Department of Public Health has 2 very large grants right now about addressing urban heat. So if trees become a part of that solution, and I've been in contact with that department about, hey, if trees come up, count me there. Please lean on my experience or anything I could do to help. So there are other avenues and other departments through which we may be able to make some tree and urban forestry related progress. Um, the collaboration is really where it's at. So thank you for your comments, Calvin. Anybody else like to say something? All right, I think we've covered a lot this meeting. Thank you all for coming. I will just maybe share my screen again. And I will put up that our next meeting, can you guys see that? I kind of lost you. Where are you? There you are. Our next meeting will be April 17th, so that's kind of right before Arbor Day. Um, we will meet virtually on Zoom. At that meeting, I'm really expecting us to kind of talk about how the plans have come together for Arbor Day, to invite you all to come to our multiple different days that we might be doing. Um, and if we get that New England Chapter ISA Arbor Day grant, I will be planning to try to get some seedlings to give away. So I really want to invite the Lynn Tree Committee to come out and get some of those. Those can be planted on private properties. So if you have a yard and you needed a little tree, you could come try to get one if we get that grant. So I'll just keep people updated about how the planning is going for that. And again, we're planning to try to do our event at 100 Bennett Street. We're going to have the preschoolers come out and sing a song, and it's going to be really fun. There's going to be like 100 little kids. So we are going to try to go out the Friday before, which is actual Arbor Day, and do some volunteer event. We're going to have try to get the Roca kids out there that day, try to get some staff out there. I saw some ailanthus invasive tree that had been cut before, but it's still growing back through the fence there. So we're going to do some site preparation. And I'm going to try my hardest to actually get some shrubs and perennial plants. So it's not just about trees all the time. It can also be about improving the space where you can't fit a tree. What kind of plant can you fit? So we'll be doing some of that. And then I'm seeing Scott said in the chat that he works at 100 Bennett Street, so he will see us there. We're really looking forward to seeing you there. The mayor will come out on, again, that's April 29th on the Tuesday morning with the kids, and we'll give away the books and we'll just have a really good time. And there will probably be donuts. We don't know how there will be donuts, but there will be donuts through some mechanism or another because you can't plant a tree without making your mulch donut, and you can't plant your tree without eating a donut.
Here,
Unless you're
here.
unless you're gluten-free, then we'll get a gluten-free donut for you.
So, Eric, where is this gonna, it's April 29th. Is there gonna be any kind of announcement about
There
this?
is. There is going to
Okay,
be an
good.
announcement. We are coordinating that with the Deputy Superintendent of Lynn Public Schools, the principal at 100 Bennett Street, some of the teachers, the kids. We just went on our site walk for that this week, so we were kind of determining what would be possible. Some of you may know Lynn Water and Sewer is very actively constructing out front of 100 Bennett Street right now, so we need to do some construction zone management and safe. We need to put a bunch of cones out and get the parking set up for that day. So we're going to have a lot of announcements about that. You're going to be
Okay,
sick of
great.
hearing about it by the time
Uh,
we
oh,
finish with
not at
all our
all.
posting.
I look forward to it, actually. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming. There is some time for some last minute. We got 4 minutes left if anybody would like to add anything else. If not, we can just close the meeting.
I do want to say one thing. It has related, well, it's related to trees, but April 4th is going to be another big demonstration on the common. So everybody get up there with your signs. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Resist, persist. Thank you.
Thank you very much for letting us know, Marilyn. It's good to hear about the community announcements, different events that are happening. That kind of does remind me, the downtown beautification, there's going to be a cleanup of the downtown. I don't actually have the date of that. I think it's May 3rd. Someone's asking in the chat, where is more information about the April 4th event? Marilyn, maybe you could answer that one.
Oh, the April 4th event is on the common. So it's in Boston. It's probably near the State House. There will be announcements. But it's near the State House on the Common from 12 to 2. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, enjoy the first day of spring. Hopefully, I'll see you out there. And thank you so much for your time on this meeting.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.